Shalom. First and foremost, call Halal Yamla, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Harachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned the truth from. And also peace and salutation to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And pretty much in this video, I wanted to, pretty much go into a few points on how free speech is being attacked, especially as of now, here in the year 2025. Okay, and as you see, I have here on the screen off of Google, I typed in attack on free speech 2025, and this is the response from the AI overview. It says, based on events in 2025, free speech is under attack from both government actions and social pressures, particularly in the wake of the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk in September. Okay, it says this has intensified debates over online expression, government censorship, and acceptable discourse. You know, so this guy, Charlie Kirk, ever since his assassination or whatnot, which even when you go into everything surrounding this guy pretty much being offed, the whole entire thing seemed fishy. Okay, it seemed very very sleight of hand. There's a lot of witchcraft even surrounding his his deletion. Okay, where you have you constantly saw the number 33 popping up around this whole entire assassination. The number 6 constantly popping up as well. All right, they even had a book. They even had a book written about this guy being SHOT, that came out, I believe, 6 days before, the actual day where he was taken out, during his speech out there in Utah. Okay, there was an actual book that came out on Amazon about 6 days before his his deletion. Okay, which the whole entire thing surrounding this guy's death, it all seems fishy, sleight of hand. Okay, you can't put nothing past Esau Edom. All right, you even had this guy Netanyahu, all right, getting on Twitter X and so-called mourning over this guy's death. If a guy like Netanyahu over there in the land of Israel is calling himself mourning over your so-called death, or saying anything good about you, then you already know, okay, this is some BS. Okay, this is some deception that Esau has going on at a high level on the left hand side. All right. And again, this is from the Google AI overview. It says, based on events in 2025, free speech is under attack from both government actions and social media and social pressures, particularly in the wake of the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk in September. This has intensified debates over online expression, government censorship, and acceptable public discourse. And then it goes into government actions and policies. Trump administration crackdowns. Following Charlie Kirk's deletion, officials in the Trump administration proposed restricting speech. Okay, coming after people's First Amendment rights, starting with their their rights to express themselves on on different internet platforms, social media, things like that. It says Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed the administration would quote unquote target broadly defined quote unquote hate speech, which drew criticism from both liberals and conservatives. All right. And as we've been seeing all throughout, the internet and all throughout social media ever since this guy Charlie Kirk pretty much got offed, all you've seen was people just going online, going at each other's throats, arguing back and forth, Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal, the left versus the right, the MAGAs versus the Democrats. Okay, Maggers treating this guy like he's a hero, like he's some type of martyr. Okay, and basically when you look at it, this guy Charlie Kirk he's basically the Tupac amongst Edomite Americans in 2025. Okay, Sose died. Okay, for what he Sose believed and things like that. Okay, he's basically the new Tupac amongst Edomite amongst Esau here in America. You see that? And on the other spectrum, you have the Democrats, the liberals, okay, getting online, pretty much cursing this guy, Charlie Kirk, out, okay, for the certain things that he said and certain talking points that he's made, okay, certain beliefs that he's expressed, all right, and it's just one big mess, all over the internet over this surrounding this guy's deletion, okay, and even, all right, it's even led to. All right, many people all over the country are pretty much getting fired from their jobs or their professions over expressing their views and their opinions over this guy's death. Okay, and as a matter of fact, even this past weekend, even the NFL world has been divided over this guy's death. As you've had certain teams, okay, before the game will start, you had certain teams over the weekend in the NFL who honored his death, gave a moment of silence or whatever. But then you had certain other teams who didn't honor his death before the game, and didn't give a moment of silence or anything, to tribute Charlie Kirk before the game started. See, even the sports world and the NFL world is all divided up surrounding this man's deletion. You see that? And so now is at a point where it's caused, the government, okay, the Trump administration to pretty much crack down on anybody that's, on the internet, on social media, celebrating or showing a lack of empathy for, this guy, Charlie Kirk's deletion. Okay. Then it says, contradictory stances. The Trump administration's posture has been perceived as inconsistent while issuing an executive order to end federal censorship. Blase. Let's go right here. Targeting of social media speech. It says government actions also include revoking visas for those celebrating Kirk's death online and threatening discipline against service members who celebrate or mock his killing. So you see that? So now they're even threatening the visas of, certain migrants or certain immigrants that's online celebrating this guy Charlie Kirk's deletion. And even threatening discipline, as it says, against service members who celebrate or mock his death. So there's even a division amongst, the military and the different servicemen and women amongst Babylon the Great America. Your police officers, your firefighters, your EMT workers, okay. So ever since this guy's deletion, there's been all kinds of division all across America, Babylon the Great, on different levels, okay, from the professional level, of course, the government level, the service levels, the sports world, okay, the average everyday person on social media is all divided up, okay. Even Jake is all divided up over this guy's death. Because, of course, as we've been seeing, you have a lot of Jakes, a lot of our people as pretty much, expressing their, pretty much celebrating, his death, okay, or, at the least, showing a lack of empathy or emotion over his death. But meanwhile, on the opposite spectrum, you have a lot of our people mourning this guy's death. You even have Jake's literally online crying over this dude's death. You see that? So, even Jake is caught up in this whole psyop between the left and the right and Democrat, Republican. Okay, this whole Charlie Kirk deletion situation, which again, this whole everything surrounding this guy's deletion is all witchcraft. Okay, it's all sleight of hand. It's a lot of deception and wickedness surrounding this guy's death. And ultimately, we can all see, us, the hopeful elect, that is, as scripture speaks about, we're not ignorant of the devices of Satan. Okay, we can, of course, all see that this is all, this whole entire situation is all brewing up closer and closer to civil war, civil unrest, all right, chaos, all for Esau to come down with the sword and come down with this left hand order. You see that? And it says, restrictions on students and scholars. It says the ACLU has highlighted cases of the administration detaining and threatening to deport international students and scholars based on their political speech regarding Israel and Palestine. All right. The Department of Defense has also restricted educational content related to race, gender, and alphabet topics in its schools. All right. And it pretty much goes into more. All right, as you have the whole cancer culture thing popping back up ever since this guy, Charlie Kirk's deletion. All right. But as we see, the left hand is using this guy's deletion, okay, to come down with the, unrighteous decrees, okay, attacking, people's very first amendment right, the right of speech, free speech, okay, the freedom of expression, freedom of press, all of that, okay, which, let's get Isaiah 10 and 1. Isaiah 10 and 1, it says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that right grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. Yeah, all these unrighteous decrees by this Trump administration with these executive orders, okay, and then now, getting ready to attack free speech and, come after people's constitutional rights. All right, all these things are ultimately all being orchestrated by the elites of Esau, Edom, okay, just to, bring forth all these different chaotic events, okay, all these different crises, okay, to justify, taking away, slowly but surely taking away people's constitutional rights, okay, their human rights, all right, come down with the left hand order out of chaos, okay, because they know by taking away the rights of people is all going to lead to chaos. People, these Americans rising up against the government, all right, civil war, civil unrest, and then once that happens, then that's going to justify the elites of Esau Edom pretty much coming down with martial law, okay, coming down with the sword to establish their left hand order out of the chaos that they're orchestrating. You see that? To establish their NWO agenda. Okay? Because that's one of the main reasons why, you see the elites of Esau Edom moving so carefully with how they want to pretty much bring America into the NWO agenda. Because one of the main things that's in the way is the Constitution. They know that these Americans, especially these Edomite Americans, these MAGAs, are going to, fight tooth and nail for their constitutional rights. And so that's why, they're orchestrating all these different shootings and crises and whatnot, okay, to be able to use their media to justify, coming after people's First Amendment rights, their Fourth Amendment rights, which is the right of privacy, and then eventually their Second Amendment rights, the right to bear arms, to pretty much leave the people, okay, silent, all right, defenseless, vulnerable, okay, to usher Babylon the Great America into the NWO agenda, you know. But these elites, they know that that's not going to happen without some form of major resistance from these regular red-blooded Edomite Americans. You see that? But they're issuing all these unrighteous decrees and attack, slowly but surely attacking free speech and attacking the Constitution, okay, as well as increasing technology and surveillance all throughout America, Babylon the Great, okay, and using this Trump administration at the forefront of doing all these things, okay, to bring society closer and closer to the NWO agenda. You see that? You know, and coming after free speech is a major part of bringing society to the NWO. You see that? Because you got to realize, the main threat against the elites of Esau, Edom, and their NWO agenda is not, the people, taking up arms and the people uniting together to come up against them. No, the main thing that they consider a threat against their NWO agenda is truth. Okay, people getting online or using their First Amendment right to call them out and to call out their agendas and to call out what they're doing in the earth in the latter days. That's the main threat, okay, against their NWO agenda. You see that? Because for so long, the elites of Esau, Edom, and the secret societies that rub elbows with them, for so long they've been able to, do wickedness throughout the four corners of the earth, undermine the people, undermine governments, okay, all behind secrecy. People not knowing who they are, what they're about, what's their ultimate goal, their ultimate intent with society. They've been able to wiggle around and do all these things under the protection of secrecy. But now we're in the latter days where the Lord, is making Esau bare more and more left to right, and then shameful spearing all over Esau's glory. Okay, and inquisition is being made upon Esau, starting with his elites. So now Esau, Edom, and his elites can no longer hide themselves. All right, and at the same time, they're no longer hiding their agenda as well. They know they're being caught. Okay, they know that they've been exposed, and so now we see, especially as of now 2025. Okay, but more importantly, pretty much from 2020 up until now 2025, they been more and more bold with their agenda. Okay, the NWO agenda, the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, ramping up more AI and more technology throughout Babylon the Great. They're openly coming out with the Charagma, the Neuralink, and things like that. They're openly letting you know the direction that they're taking in society. Okay, they know they have a short time left. All right, they know they've been exposed. They can't hide themselves, so they're no longer hiding their true intent and their true agenda. All right, and they're going about it with all these different shootings and crises, as well as unrighteous decrees following all these different crises. Okay, let's see. Let's get Isaiah 32. This is Isaiah 32 and verse 7. It says, the instruments also of the churro are evil. And this word churro, when you go into it, it basically means like a scoundrel, basically a villain. Okay, and that's what Esau Edom is, starting with this elite. He's the villain of the Lord's story. He's the antagonist of the Lord's movie. You see that? And in these latter days, he's been blessed with many instruments. Okay, the sword, his news media, his propaganda, his pseudoscience, his pseudo technology, AI. All right, his pharmakeia. See that? The way he weaponizes music, the way he weaponizes food and water and the air that we breathe, the way he weaponizes the clothes that we wear, okay? The way he weaponizes women and marriage and relationships and, things that's needed to continue life on the earth. Esau's pretty much turned everything in life to an instrument of death, a sword. You see that? And it says again, Isaiah 32, verse 7, the instruments also of the churro are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. See that? He's seeking to destroy the poor with lying words. And that's ultimately, especially as we're now in 2025, that's how Esau Edom pretty much looks at the so-called middle class American. All right, because from 2020 up until now, Esau has been slowly but surely, drastically, wiping out the middle class, raising up inflation, raising up the cost of living, all right, making everybody's lives a living hell, okay? People are in all types of debt just to be able to afford food and take care of their children, keep a roof over their head and things like that, all right? And it's to the point to where there's pretty much no more middle class. It's either you rich, you're either amongst the the upper rich, or you're just poor. Okay. Nowadays, okay, what was formerly known as the middle class, now you're just basically the working poor. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You know, you're using your a major percentage of your paycheck to pay off different debts. Credit card debt, loan debt, student loan debt, things like that. All right. In Esau Edom, he's using this instrument, especially under this Trump administration, to destroy the poor with lying words. See that? Claiming that if you make certain talking points on the internet, they're gonna label you as hate speech and anti-sim and you know, sea theorists and things like that. Okay, and you notice as well, a lot of these shootings that's been happening lately. Okay, over these past few years and whatnot, you notice one of the main things that the media blames on, as far as the motives of these different so-called shootings as of recently, right? You notice they always like to lay the blame on social media. They claim that the suspect was inspired to do, okay, whatever particular shooting that they committed based on certain things that they saw on social media or certain things that they listened to on social media, okay? And Esau, he's just pushing out these narratives and making all these talking points in his media to, justify, to use those false narratives to justify monitoring social media, cracking down on free speech, okay, destroying the poor with lying words. You see that even when the needy speak of the right. See, even, okay, for people that's online, speaking particular truths, okay, getting on social media and exposing certain things, they get taken off. Okay, their videos may get flagged or taken out, shadow banned, whatever it may be. Okay, because one of the major things that Esau has to do to go forward with this NWO agenda is to eliminate, okay, any and all truth speak, that's exposing this agenda. Okay, take off certain videos off of YouTube, take certain videos off of social media, delete certain social media users off of their these different social media platforms. Okay, even if they speak right on certain things, okay, they get canceled, right? And let me get this. Psalms 37 verse 14, it says the wicked, okay, who's the wicked? Esau Edom, pursuant to Malachi 1 verse 4. It says the wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy and to slay such as be of upright conversation. Yeah, Esau doesn't want upright conversation in the earth. Okay, he doesn't want, okay, truth to be spoken in the earth because, truth is an enemy to Esau Edom. He's the wicked. Okay, truth is an enemy to his NWO agenda. Truth is an enemy to any and everything that Esau has set up in the earth from the time of the Renaissance period up until now. Literally everything that Esau set up in the earth in his outer days was all set up based on lies, deception, pseudoscience, okay? Ultimately anti-Yahweh Shema Shai energy. You see that? So to speak any form of truth in his outer days, even amongst these people in the world, that don't have this truth that we have, okay, in the scriptures and whatnot, even these people in the world that speaking certain truths, even they get canceled. Okay, and as we see, people that celebrating this guy Charlie Kirk's deletion, they're getting fired from their jobs. They risk getting their visas revoked. Okay, they risk, certain college students risk getting deported back to their countries. Okay, over expressing their feelings for this guy's deletion. Okay, Esau seeking to slay. Okay, those that be of any type of upright conversation. Speaking any form of truth. Okay, expressing their First Amendment rights, their free speech. All these things are under attack as this devil is getting ready to come down great wrath because he knows he has but a short time left. All right. And of course, as we, the hopeful elect, know, ultimately all these things surrounding this guy's death, as well as, other recent events that's going on, all these things ultimately all leading up to Esau, Edom coming after us, the hopeful elect. You see that? Because if there's anybody on the internet that's speaking real truth on the internet, it's us, the men of the Lord. Starting with the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone, down to the least of us that are of the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. Okay, we know good and well that Esau is ultimately going to use all these things to come against the men of the Lord. Because you notice as well as, again, surrounding this guy Charlie Kirk's deletion. You notice who are the Republicans and Trump and whatnot. Who are they, pointing the finger at surrounding this guy's deletion? The left, okay, the Democrats, all right? And as we've been seeing over these years, Jake has been heavily linked with the Democrats, okay? Our people, from the BLM to the alphabet agenda, all right? Crying for for Biden to get in office, crying for Kamala Harris, crying for Obama, okay? Jake is heavily linked with this whole, Democrat left psyop. You see that? And so, a lot of these recent events and these recent shootings and these crises and these attacks has been happening as of lately. Jake is going to ultimately get the blame for all of this. You see that? And ultimately, this is all going to be used as a roundabout way to come up against the elect of the nation of Israel. Okay, us, the hopeful elect. This is Isaiah 29 verse 21 says Salaki. I started at verse 20. Isaiah 29 verse 20. For the terrible one is brought to naught. Okay, the terrible one, Esau, Edom, is brought to naught. Shameful spewing is upon his glory. Inquisition is being made upon Esau. He's being made bare more and more left and right in these latter days. It says, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. See that? Esau, Edom is ultimately going to make us, the hopeful elect, an offender for a word. An offender for the word of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay? Because we're the ones that's, really and truly taking a hardcore stance, chant down this beast system, chant down Babylon the Great. This beast system, its image, its mark, its NWO agenda. Okay? And so therefore, Esau is ultimately doing all these things, getting ready to attack free speech, mobilizing National Guard troops, all right? Setting up all this AI and surveillance everywhere and Palantir to ultimately lay a snare for the elect, to lay a snare for the men of the Lord. You see that? But hey, we the hopeful elect, we know that ultimately Yahweh Shema Shai is going to be with us and protect us in that day. Okay, as the Lord is going to lift up a standard for his elect, pursuant to Isaiah 59 and 19. He's going to use the holy angels to protect the elect as well, pursuant to Daniel 12 and 1. Okay. And ultimately, hey, the elect are going to be covered by the blood of Mashiach Yahushai. Okay. To be protected from Esau's great wrath. And as well, being that we see free speech is, coming under attack, we know as well that this is all leading up to the famine of the word, as it speaks of in Amos 8 and verse 11. It says, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai." See that? So there's getting ready to be a famine of the word. These videos will soon no longer be on the internet, no longer be on YouTube. Okay, the camp speakings will come to a closing. You see that? And it says, verse 12, "And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it." See that? When these videos are no longer on the internet, and when the men of the Lord are no longer on the highways and the byways doing the camp speakings, that's when 2/3 of our people are going to be, scared, crapping their pants. Okay, making a diligent search for the videos, making a diligent search for the men of the Lord. All right, but it's going to be too late. Okay, it says, verse 13, "In that day shall the fair virgins and the young men faint for thirst." Yeah, faint for thirst for the word. As these scriptures and his truth and his word are likened to rivers of living water. Well, guess what? Hey, those amongst our people, the 2/3 of our people, okay, that's not drinking of these rivers of living water, okay, that's not taking heed to the truth, not taking heed to the men of the Lord while this word is still going out. Hey, once this word is cut off, all right, once these videos are taken off the internet, okay, 2/3 of our people that's without this word, they're going to be fainting for thirst of this word, for thirst of this truth. Okay, it's going to be a famine of the word unto them, because they're going to be without. Meanwhile, us, the hopeful elect that have this word, okay, it's not going to be a famine unto us, because we're eating of this hidden manna. We're eating of this word, this bread, okay? We're supping with Yahweh Shai. We're drinking of these rivers of living water, okay? So when Jacob's trouble hit and the famine of the word is going to come, we're not going to hunger nor thirst in the spirit. You see that? And ultimately, we, the hopeful elect, are going to be in good case in that day. Although, we're going to have to go through tribulations and different troubles and all types of hell and persecution and all these things. But ultimately, the Lord is going to be covering and protecting his elect in that day. You see that? But, the fact that, as we see, free speech is under attack, especially as over these, past recent events, over these past few weeks and few months. And that's why the scripture says, all right, Isaiah 55 and verse 6, "Seek ye the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near." It is very soon, for those of our people that don't repent and come back to the Lord, soon the Lord won't be very near unto them no more. Okay, the famine of the word is going to hit. Free speech is going to be attacked on all levels. This word won't be on the internet any longer. Okay, these videos won't be going out. Okay, and those of our people, the 2/3 of our people that's going to be without this word, they're going to thirst spiritually. Okay, so hey, seek the Lord while he may be found. You see that? So I'm pretty much ended off right there. Lord willing, this video was edifying. And until next time, shalom.